So, good morning and welcome to the 2024 Northwest Interlibrary Loan and Resource Sharing Conference. I am Dr. Katie DeBette. I'm this year's chair. And as you have seen, please be kind and be patient with us. This is the first time we're attempting this hybrid, and we are not funded by somebody big to do all the back end stuff. So, this is a group of about 20 of us between here and our varying institutions across the world, trying to make sure it's all working. If you would like to join in the conversation on Whova, if you're in the space, you are welcome to do so. We do ask that you please keep your video off, but you can absolutely do Q&A and chat and messaging and all of those fun things from the Whova app. So good things on that. I will try and be quick on my introduction so we can go ahead and get into our keynote and not be too far behind on the day. So good things to know. As you checked in, not only do you have very cool stickers on your name tags, you also had the opportunity to grab a bingo card with all of our sponsors today. If you are interested, you can go visit them later and get them to market however they see fit so that you have the opportunity to win a door prize. There are also opportunities to put in questions for our Ask Anything that will be Friday morning. You are welcome to put those in via Whova. There is a link in the session description. And there are signups at the registration table if you missed it for tours of the ILL department here at UO and our special collections at the University of Oregon as well. There are opportunities outside of our conference time to visit the Art Museum and Museum of Natural and Cultural History. You can use your name badge to get into those. There are signs around for all of the useful things. If you're not sure, find an organizer and we'll help you find how to get to the thing that you need. Very good. And there are session surveys, all of those things that you expect. We've got our land acknowledgement for the University of Oregon linked on our website that I'm not going to read right now in the interest of time. So why play? Why are we starting with play and not with a bunch of numbers? We want to welcome our keynote speaker today, Dr. Sharon Morris. Sharon comes to us from Colorado State Library, and she's speaking about cultivating a playful culture. It's essential to our work. After a 5-year hiatus from seeing you in person, we chose to focus on play for this year's session to help us remind us to find the joy in our work, to give us something different to bring home from this year's conference after years of endless webinars and online trainings, some of which we may have seen more than once or 5 times because they just keep going. And to give all of us participating an opportunity to get up and engage with what we do in libraries and how we can use it to better our home institutions. We invite you as we go through this to look for ways to bring this with you throughout the conference and back home again. As with all of our annual sessions, the session is being recorded with permission from our presenters. We plan to make these recordings available once captions have been added. There will be an email once that is available. And we will take questions from the room and from virtual attendees on Whova. Again, this is our first time. Please be patient with us. If you're in the room, raise your hand. We'll run a mic to you. If you are joining us virtual, feel free to put it in the Q&A, upvote, all of that fun stuff. And excellent. And with that, welcome, Sharon.
Thank you. I'm shorter than Katie by a lot. Welcome everyone in person. It's so great to be with you. So also welcome everyone online. So it's great to have all these people. This is one of the advantages of a pandemic, right? We could do a blended conference. So yay. Let's just start out with a game, shall we? But first, I guess I should say housekeeping. So first of all, everybody should have a field guide to play. And that field guide is something we're going to be using. So if you're online, you're in person,
and I won't open anything else.
Thank you. Okay. And we're back. Thank you, Sonia, for letting us know. And everyone else. So I'm watching everything on my app. I'm watching everyone in the room. I'm watching the screen. So it's bound to nothing go wrong, right? Okay. So let's just start. Let me see if I can get over here with a game. There we go. Cultivating a playful culture. And so we're going to start with a game called Two Truths and a Lie. I'm going to say 3 things about me, and you're going to guess. You can shout it out in the room. I have hearing issues, so please shout. And then that's part of the play, right? And if you're online, you can put in the chat area. But here are 3 things about me. One of them is a lie. So in my many over 30 years of working in libraries, I have had many jobs, including circulation, reference, and interlibrary loan. Second, after I graduated with my master's in library science, I was hired by a software company and worked in software development for 2 years. The third is that my dissertation research is on fun and play. Okay, which are 2 truths and which one's the lie? Some people think the first one is, some people think it's actually the third one is a lie. When I asked my dissertation chair about studying fun in the workplace, there was a look on his face that struck me with terror. And so while I'm very fascinated with it, and I did a Google research ping that has pinged me every year for 12 years now. Every time there's a new study on fun in the workplace, I studied something out, which we can talk about another time, but we're talking about play today. So that's a little bit about me, but what about you? So I put up a poll. When you think about play at work, what do you think? And everybody put other here. So I need to know, what do you think about when you think about play at work? We talked about it a little bit at our table, but others? How many of you, when you get grumpy, you need to feel like you need to be more playful at work? That's me. I'm a clown at work, but really I get a ton of work done. How do I get valued for my work? Few people. Nice. I'm a skeptic about play at work. Work should be serious, and that's okay to admit. No, everybody thinks play is fun. All right. Any other comments on play, what we think about play at this point? All right. Yeah, go ahead.
Hello? Oh, okay. So I have a coworker who is very bothered by play at work because they have a focus issue, and we have an open office set up, so everyone can hear what everyone else is always doing. And some of us, me included, really like to focus on what we're doing when we're doing it.
Very
And
good.
so unless it's, scheduled play, it breaks up the day in a bad way for some people.
Excellent. Thank you for bringing that up. We'll discuss that in a little bit more detail. In the interest of time, was there one other person? Somebody else raised their hand in the room. And there may be comments online. Katie, if you have anything, you see anything? Okay. So they're not seeing the slide deck again.
It just says like structured time play by superiors is not fun. Yeah, if it's mandatory fun, that's not fun. Someone says I throw safe balls around and have toys that giggle and laugh when thrown. I believe we need to laugh as much as we breathe. I would play given more opportunity. That seems to be what's
All right.
on there.
Excellent. All right. We're back on track. This is playful too. We're just like wrestling with the software up here. It's very exciting. Okay. So we are going to address some of those things that you all mentioned. First of all, let me advance my slide here. Okay. Slide not advancing. Okay. Here we go. All right. So today, my hope is that one, you gain a greater understanding of the value of play and the benefits of play at work, that you clarify your own play preferences and consider how to increase play in your work. And after talking with many of you, you already do a lot of play at work. So I'm pretty excited to hear some of what you have to say. Now, for the agenda, we have at this introduction, which we're going to get through pretty quickly, and then each of you is going to define play for yourself. And then we're going to talk about the benefits of play based on what the research says about the benefits of play at work. You're going to assess your own style and think about what play might look like in your work. And to your point, productive play, which might seem like an oxymoron for some. And then developing a playful culture. We're a little bit short on time, so we're just going to pick up the pace a little bit and move right into the next thing, which is for you to, and these are just reminders to be curious. I wanted to, as I was thinking about this, I was like, ooh, people are going to expect a keynote is sort of like talk at everyone, but it's a keynote about play. So I want you to be playful and join in. This is a picture I took when I was at a conference in Vermont, and this dog was with everyone else. So I'd like to invite that there's like unexpected things that might happen, and join in and be playful. And one of the ways that I'd like you to do that is, for those of you in the room, I'd like you to look around, find somebody that is going to be your partner pretty close to you, maybe somebody you don't know, and lock eyes with them and say, this is a person I'm going to talk with every once in a while. If you don't want to talk, I understand. You don't have to. I'm an introvert too. But this is a real opportunity. Some of my best friends I met at conferences, so I'd like to encourage you to find one other person to discuss a few things with. For those of you online, you'll be chatting with each other through the app and staying connected that way. All right, so first activity, well, you've already had some activities, but think about when you were a child and you were playful and you did play, whatever kind of play you really loved. How did it feel? And I'm going to look and see what people are saying in the chat area about how it felt. And then how did it feel? Shout it out. Fun, natural, imaginative, immersive, powerful, high energy. We're seeing things like joyful, a lot of people saying joyful, explosive, and escape. Sorry. Competitive. All right. Uh-huh. There is an effortlessness about it. Some people think life-giving. Okay, and so what I did, because play means different things to different people, is I gathered up various words from definitions. So if you look in your playbook on page 2, you will see a variety of different words that are associated with definitions of play. I always define our terms when we begin talking about things, right? So I'd like you to take a few minutes to look at that, and you already have, because you're sort of thinking about the emotion of play, but think about play and how would you define play? And if you want to do it from a work environment, you can, but you don't have to. Just give you a few minutes to look at those words or the ones on the screen if you're online, which ones resonate most for you, and see if you can define play based on the words that most resonate for you. Oh, nice. I'm gonna point out Carissa's definition. She just posted a whimsical release of stress and energy. Okay, I'm just going to give you about 30 more seconds to think about your definition of play. Some great comments online. Thank you for those of you posting online. So I'll share with you a few of the things that I find interesting about this from a work perspective. But Catherine's, I think, is really wonderful. So play is how to reward your brain when your brain refuses to reward itself. And in parentheses, she has dopamine deficiency. And so, there is something about play that really moves our brain away from cortisol like stress and the parasympathetic nervous system and into the sympathetic nervous system. So we're going to talk about the benefits of play, but as if being psychic. Catherine put that. My definition of play is imaginative, intrinsically motivated, and/or whimsical activities. That means it's active, not passive activities that de-stress, increase joy, and add to, not detract from, practical work. So that last bit about adding to, not detracting from practical work is where we have to kind of stitch a little bit, right? So we're going to unpack that a little bit. Anybody else want to share a definition you're super proud of? Katie's got the mic. Thank you.
Good morning. So my undergrad was in child development and education, and I also see it as a comfortable way for littles to play act adulthood.
Play act adulthood. I love that. Thank you.
I was an early childhood educator and a teacher, K through 9. And to me, play is how people should learn. There's also, learning other ways, but play is how kids learn best. And I said, thinking of kids and ourselves at work, I said, play is enjoyable, reduces stress, is imaginative and creative, can be mental or physical, and is energetic, fun, and unconcerned with the opinions of others. Because
Great.
when we're concerned with the opinions of others, we don't learn.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you for sharing those. So this is actually playful for some people to invent and create using the knowledge that you have and taking in new ideas and then formulating them into some new meaning. And as an academic, it's one of my favorite things to do, even though other people think, oh God, here comes Sharon again with another idea. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that tension between our play and other people and how they play. So as we think about how we define play and how we think about play, we recognize that play can happen on various levels. And I like to think about this as sort of like fields of play at work. So one example that I would give for intrapersonal is somebody who just does playful things kind of on their own. So does anybody have any secret joys in their work that only they know that they do to be playful, to enjoy their work? Let me give you an example. My friend Becky, she every year we have to fill out federal reports, and federal reports are sometimes pretty arduous. But every year she picks a different kind of music because, like Katie in the back, she was a music major and she was a singer and an opera singer. So she's obsessed with music. And so she, most recently to do her report, she put on Irish punk music, and she referred to her report. The name she saved on the report, well, it was a draft for only her, was Shane McGowan from the Pogues, and she listens to this punk music and does a report, and by the end, you know, she renames it the protocol that is required for the federal report to be turned in. But during the time that she's working on it, she's kind of like making it fun for herself. So this is, I like to call it interpersonal play rather than playing with oneself, because, you know, it's pretty obvious why. And then there's interpersonal play, which is being playful with other people. So you probably have ideas, and I've heard some examples of people who are playful with their teammates, but my example of this is a colleague of mine. I went actually to visit a library in Douglas County, Colorado, in Castle Rock, and while we were there waiting for the director to come give us a tour, we overheard this transaction. Somebody came up to the desk very mad, slammed a book down and said, "This book is disgusting." And the person working at the desk at the time, Lynn, pulled out another book that she had just returned and said, "Oh, you think that one's bad? You should read this one." Which led to this really robust conversation about, you know, kind of this romance genre, and where the line is between what's disgusting, what's not disgusting. And then Lynn was able to lead her to books that were more appropriate for what her interests were. So, you know, obviously there could have been a lot of different ways of responding to that, but the humor factor really did actually turn that conversation into something a little bit more productive, right? And then the third is organizational play. And this is sometimes hard, you know, because like structural play, like, has anybody ever been somewhere where your organization's like, we're going to have a barbecue and everybody's going to bring their favorite dessert? And you know what I do? I immediately like call up my family and go, do we have anything going on this date and time? Because I got to get out of this thing. So, you know, organizational play is tricky because not everyone plays the same way. We're going to get to that in just a second, but I want to give you some examples of an organization that has whimsy and play as kind of like a fundamental part of their way of being. It's stitched into the culture of the organization. And one example is this slide that I'm showing right now, which is how they let people know around the library that there's 24/7 surveillance. What do you think? It's kind of silly and whimsical in a way. And so the idea here is they've sort of said, you know, we have rules, we have boundaries, but we don't want to be so heavy-handed. How can we let people know about what's going on in our library in a way that they know where the boundaries are, but do it in sort of a whimsical and fun way? So another thing that this organization does, oops, let me go back, is they have kind of interesting and whimsical names for their different things, but they're different positions. So instead of shelvers, they're called wranglers and stuff. I don't know whether I buy into that, but what I want to do is just kind of say that you can't have a fun culture unless everybody's empowered to, you know, be playful. And so this idea about fun and culture is fraught in some ways, right? But this is an example of one of the job descriptions of this organization. So you will be instrumental in helping our customers have fun, whether they're sitting by the fireplace with a newspaper, surfing the internet, gaming in the teen room, or learning something new at one of our many intriguing and entertaining programs. As you help and inspire others, you will also be inspired. This job will make you love Monday mornings again. So this is a recruitment strategy they use to try and hire the kind of people. And this is the kind of promise they have for what your job will be like. And so they're trying to really attract a certain kind of person that is going to want to work in a playful environment. And they're trying to establish that people will be empowered to create that playful environment for everyone that comes in. So it's not that I'm saying that this is right or wrong. I just want to give you some examples because I think that the playful and work environment that establishes a culture that's playful and maybe has some of the aspects of the emotions that you identified earlier or some of the definitions that you wrote earlier can actually happen and be stitched through a culture. But it requires that the artifacts, the values, the different aspects that have been identified as part of a culture are all sort of integrated in a way that makes that work. But then I'm going to give you like a few tricks in a few minutes on how to maybe up the playfulness of your culture. But let's talk about why. Why does play matter in work? And this is where my little Google search that's been pinging me for 12 years has come in handy. Benefits of play. So with the intrapersonal play, right? So the benefits of just sort of like the secret joy of kind of coming up with playful ways to do your job, whether other people know it or not, like my friend Becky working on her report or others, is, oh, we may have lost our connection here. Sorry, this is a non-playful moment. It's showing the video. Katie, I might need you up here. I think it's showing me and not the PowerPoint. Nobody wants to see me.
Oh, we could see you.
Oh.
Fabulous. We're checking and seeing if our share screen went weird. There we go.
Great. Thank you. The goal is not to see me, it's to see the slide deck, right? So thank you, Katie. Let's give her a hand. She's awesome. Okay, so the benefits of play, interpersonal play, you can see them listed here. You can see them on your play and your field guide to play. I'm just going to go through these really quickly by not reading them to you, but just showing them to you. Benefits of play interpersonally, like on your teams, better work relationships, blah, 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 blah. And then finally, organizational, the benefits of play organizationally. And these are listed here. What I'd like you to do is remember that person you identified in the room. Talk to that person for just a few minutes on why these might be benefits of play. Like what makes sense to you about this? And for those of you online, I'm going to be watching the chat area. What I'd love to do is see, and you've already alluded to some of it in the chat area, please share some of these benefits of play and why do you think these are benefits of play? We'll have questions later and I can go into more details. But I just want to have you take a few minutes to think about the benefits of play in your work. Okay, I'm going to give you about 30 more seconds. Okay, we're seeing some great ideas in the chat area about the benefits of play. Does anybody in the room want to share anything? Katie's going to come around with a microphone. Oh, over here, Katie.
Susan and I were both discussing that at our different places, it's coffee time. Mine is anybody in the building, whether it's library services or not, is invited to meet on office hours for coffee and goodies, and it's no work talk. Just share personal stuff, whatever's on your mind, and laugh, joke, whatever is needed for an hour, pretty much every Thursday morning.
Okay, so it's Thursday morning. Let's just take a break from work and just reset. We
And-
have something called Thursday Laughternoon Club, where we just tell jokes for an hour.
Yeah, and Susan their place does a coffee walk, cross
Coffee walk.
campus, fetch coffee, come back.
Yeah, so the benefits of that are you feel more connected with the other people on your team, right? You feel a little bit more refreshed, and there may be other benefits, but you know, we need to take a break. And the metaphor that I have for this is the rubber band, right? If a rubber band is stretched and stressed, what's the worst thing you can do to a rubber band? Stretch it more, right? So we need to give it some slack. So play is a way as a team to get a little bit of slack, but that doesn't mean we stop the tension of the rubber band. We stop working, right? It's just a scheduled time to release. So that's kind of great that that's already stitched in. Other benefits of play people want to point out? Anything on these lists? Oh yeah, go ahead.
We actually have a knit and crochet and just general crafting group that meets every other week at lunch. And one of the nice things about that group is that it's library wide. So you get to meet people from other departments that you wouldn't have any interaction with on a normal day-to-day basis. And you get to just sit and talk about random things and work on something creative. And having that creative outlet in the middle of the day is a really good release of that tension that you were talking about.
That's awesome. I love that. I love the physical aspect of that, the social aspect of that. And sometimes, you know, when you get to know other people in the organization, you never know when you need to pick up the phone and ask them for something. And then it's like, oh, it's my crochet buddy. So I got this. I like to have a crochet buddy. Well, knitting is my thing in the budget office. Highly recommend that. Nice to have somebody in accounting on your side. Great. So, and we've got great feedback, but in the interest of time, we're going to move on. Sorry, we had to just make this quick because we keep moving forward. So we've defined play. We've talked about the benefits of play at work. We can unpack some of those benefits. If you want to save your questions, we'll have some time for questions. Katie's watching the question area. The other Katie is watching the question area. We've got like Katie squared here. It's awesome. For somebody who doesn't remember names like me, it's really helpful. So anyway, yeah. So let's move on to the fact that different people think about play differently. You've already thought about this by listening to what other people do with play, right? In the room, maybe you think about other people, but This is a chart. I'm not saying it's like the best chart, but I'm saying it's a helpful chart. So we've got short charts to sort of say what's our personality type, Myers-Briggs. We've got emotional intelligence charts. We've got communication styles. This is our play style chart. So what I'd like you to do with this play style chart, and actually I have a poll for this, is I'd like you to look through these 8, and you can have another if you want to, but I'd really like you to kind of think about these 8 and think about in your work which ones you like, and choose your top 2 or 3. So I'm going to give you an example of how this looks though with my colleague Christine. So my colleague Christine is definitely a director. Like, she's super organized. She likes to plan everything in advance. She likes to have it handled. She has decided that that's what she does intrapersonally. So she has her own Trello. She organizes all of our stuff. She totally directs herself. So she's not micromanaging other people, but she micromanages herself. And it's super fun. She loves Trello. She organizes everything. It's really satisfying for her. Interpersonally, though, she's a joker. She's got a dry wit. She's always saying funny things in meetings. It's never really disruptive. I mean, it's a little disruptive, but we get back on track. But it's funny and delightful. And then, organizationally, what she's done with that director role is she has like gotten all the other people together. She's our instructional designer. So she gets people together once every 2 months for an hour just to talk about instructional design ideas, and people can kind of share different things with each other. So it's an opportunity to kind of collect and gather things. So that's my example of a person who leverages her play styles both in all of these different categories. You don't have to break it down so much, but what I'd like you to do is choose 2 to 3 of your top play styles, and if you can, add them to the Whova poll that I have up. Okay, I'd love to be able to share this poll. Can you share it?
Move it over. So if we go to,
So I've got the polls up. And
so we can go, we'll do it on here.
Okay.
And then say,
Share poll results.
oh wait, that's not it.
That's it.
Right. But isn't there, we can't have like a little graph for that. That's what we have to do.
Here she comes. Nice.
Because it was going to share like a little graph, but it was really tiny.
No, this is good. It's a bar chart. All right, so you can start to see the results coming in. We have a lot of jokers in the room. Nice. And online, no surprise, looking at the chat things, a lot of explorers. And a lot of creators. Great. Yeah. Katie again, everyone, ladies and gentlemen.
Come on.
Is that over there? Awesome. All right. Wasn't that fun? Okay. So why is it helpful to know your play style and other people's? There's a little bit of a situation where things can get fraught. So this is where cautionary tale. Sometimes people think they're being playful and it rubs other people the wrong way. So the example I have of this is I went to a meeting with our team, and one of the team members had brought some candy from a trip. They'd just gotten back from a business trip. They brought some candy. They put it in the middle of the table, and said, "Oh, I brought candy from this business trip." And one person goes, "Oh, geez, I guess they didn't have any big ones, huh? You had to get the smallest one." And then the next person says, "Ugh, well, I'm on a diet. Thanks a lot." And so after the meeting, then we met and everybody thinks, oh, they're just being funny, right? But after the meeting, my colleague turned to me and said, "I will never bring any food to another one of these team meetings again." She was stewing about it all the way through. So sometimes humor, particularly sarcasm, can really go astray, right? And for me, I'm the youngest of 6, right? So if you're the youngest, you understand this, but if you're not, you don't. Every game you ever play for the first 18 or 20 years of your life, you are at a disadvantage of being smaller, weaker, not as developmentally, so it's just like competition is not fun for us. So when people do a throwdown and they're competitive at work, I used to think like, oh, these people are kind of aggressive and, it rubbed me the wrong way. But actually for them, it was just like super fun. It was a way to connect. It's a way to network, so, and particularly when it comes to using humor against other people, like gossip. Some people use gossip as a mechanism to, be funny and say something snarky about, a boss or something like that. And we had that in our organization. And it really did connect the people who all worked for the boss, except for 2 of the people who worked for the boss. And they were like, I need to work from home. I don't even want to be in the same room with these people. They're so mean-spirited. And if they're saying this about you, the boss, what are they saying about me when I'm not in the room? So we have to be kind of careful about how we leverage our play styles and how we bring those into our work, because mood is a contagion, and I think play is a contagion, right? And so the research on mood being a contagion is if somebody is in a bad mood and they go into a room and they share all the things that are going wrong with them, what happens to the other people in the room? Yeah, kind of brings them down, doesn't it? So play has the opportunity to be a contagion the other way. It could spread more joy. It could spread more creativity. It could spread more interconnection. But it could also go awry. So think about and notice for yourself if there are things that you're doing playfully that might feel a little bit uncomfortable for other people. But also think about people who you kind of have a rub with. Are they really not kind with you, or are they just flexing their own play style in a way that you're misreading? Right? So I think that that's an important thing to kind of think about with play. We just think play is like, oh, that's great, or maybe it's too distracting to our work, or we have to think about it certain ways. Like how, and this is kind of antithetical to play, how can we leverage play with a little bit of intention, with a little bit of thought? So I'm going to ask you now to go back to I believe it's page 3, and your playbook, or your field guide, sorry. Sometimes I call them playbooks. And there's some notes for ways to play at work. So I've got 3 scenarios here on the slide, and I'd like you to just think about your own play style that you've already identified, those combination of things. And then think about some of these scenarios. It's Monday morning, or whatever day is your first day of work, to be clear, of the week. And you're trying to get going and kind of gear up for your week. How do you incorporate play into your day? And then it's sort of midway through the week and you're dragging. What kind of things can you do to incorporate play? And it sounds like some of you already do with the walk and other things like that. And then you've just been given a ridiculously challenging assignment with a crazy deadline, like immediately. How do you leverage play in that stressful situation? I'm just going to give you a few minutes to think about that and maybe talk with somebody else about that. And those of you online can put it in the chat area. I'm going to give you about 30 more seconds. All right, I'm going to point out some of the comments in the chat area first, and then we're going to allow Katie more time to get her exercise. Hopefully you're wearing your thing that's tracking your steps here. Okay, so a lot of people do walks, but a lot of people are talking about music to get them up and going. Some people will actually get up and dance to the music, which is awesome. Colleagues know that when I'm stressed out, and this is actually kind of a secret, but when somebody's really upset about something, like really bad upset, sometimes I do like a really bad cheerleader cheer for them. Just kind of cheer them up because it's so ridiculous and dumb. They just can't do anything but laugh, right? So not to make light of their work, but what are other things that you all have come up with to incorporate play a little bit more? Raise your hand.
I'm looking for hints. When I really need to focus on something, I will put on Lo-Fi Girl, and the newest channel has Pomodoro, and it's a library setting, FYI.
Yeah, and somebody in the chat area mentioned that. Thank you for that. That's good. Pomodoro setting.
I do side quest Saturdays where I set side quests for me, and once I achieve all the side quests, I give myself a little reward.
It's amazing.
Nice.
Hit
That's
Libby
super
and then you.
fun. I think you could do a side business of that. Other people buy into that.
It's actually at the end of the day, but I do closing music. We play music through the loudspeakers in our entire 6th floor building every night, the last 5 minutes. And the kids get to pick the music playlist theme for the day. So they and I choose, and then we're happy just waiting for those last 5 minutes to hear our music for our reward.
That's phenomenal. Everyone now, are you thinking like, maybe that's a good idea? Like, really good idea.
Yeah, I'm mostly reward driven. So with mostly this last example, I think I'll use like, oh, it's Muffin Friday. So if I can finish this hard thing, I get to go get my muffin or do my crossword.
I love that. Like a reward at the end is such a good way to get motivated. Have a playful something, something, or food, of course. Yeah.
I do most of my interaction with everyone at work or other colleagues elsewhere via email and Teams. And so I have a group of mobile services staff that I interact with about renewals, et cetera. And we have a whole conversations with the little Teams GIFs that we say what we need to say, we work out what we need to work out, and then we have 2 or 3 moving pictures that, you know, to make each other laugh. And just that little bit is very helpful to lighten the load.
I love that. And yeah, I know some people watch, like, they download cat videos. Somebody online, let's see, it's Kathleen says, oh no, wait, it wasn't Kathleen. It was Carrie says the DC Zoo Panda Cam is something that Carrie watches for fun. Yeah.
We have a game in our office called Patterson Not Patterson, where there's a list of James Patterson titles, and then a list of titles that I've just made up. And you give me a number, I tell you a title, and you have to tell me if it's James Patterson or not Patterson. And it's very difficult.
Man, that's a good game. Nice. All right. And people love that idea. So what's great about this is, and please check out the comments for this section too, because there's some great ideas that you can incorporate. Yes.
One thing, I had a coworker who was getting transferred to a different branch, and one thing she did before she left was that she left about 200 of the tiny little plastic ducks you can buy on Amazon all over the library, and we have yet to find them all. So it's a little spark of joy every time you find a new one, and you can be like, guys, I found another one. She put it over in the Danielle Steele section, and it's just been incredible. And sometimes we have patrons come up being like, I found a plastic duck in the shelf. Should I do something about that? I'm like, nope, you leave him there. That's where he lives now.
Oh, that's great.
My staff did that with plastic frogs in my office.
We created a fun board in the back, and the students randomly pick 2 actors to go head-to-head polling who's the hottest.
That's awesome. So I was, as I said before, my colleague Christine does this instructional design thing, and I told her that I was going to come and do this talk with y'all. And one of my colleagues is the youth services person, and she worked for this anything where they do all these crazy things. And she goes, you know, interlibrary loan, don't they do requests? I go, yeah. And she goes, what if they change them to quests instead of requests? And for some people, it's like this quest to find things, and then they have Mad Libs as their form that they fill out for like interlibrary loan requests. I was like, okay, I'm going to share that with everyone. I kind of love that idea. So you could either, you know, give people requests or quest forms to fill out for their interlibrary loan. So there's an idea from a colleague. So we could go on all day with this. It's very fun, but we're running out of time. So what I want to ask you to do that we won't have time to do now is I want you to keep sharing these playful ideas with each other so you can start thinking about when you go back to your library, or some of you are already back in your library, when you go into your work zone, think about something in the next couple of weeks, whether it's a meeting or a project you're working on. How might you stitch a little bit more fun and joy into that? And just like a science experiment, notice if it makes you, if it has any of these benefits, it helps you increase your creativity, or if it's with somebody else, helps you to build a stronger relationship with them, or what have you. So I'm asking you to plan play a little bit, right? Which is kind of goofy, but plan based on your play preference, ideas for you have play, and think about and notice which benefits you have. And then the other thing that I'll ask for you to do is to think about what areas would benefit for a little bit more playfulness in your library culture, and where might there be areas to modify where play is maybe not having the intended benefits that people think it's having, so that you can start to build a little bit more of an intentional joy and fun into your work. So the most recent research that I read on play in an organizational perspective is when people work in what they consider to be a fun work environment, they stay longer. Like it's actually a retention strategy for your libraries, maybe for your students, maybe your student workers, maybe for the staff. I think it's also a retention and engagement strategy for the people who use your library and use your services. So I don't take play lightly. I think it can be really transforming. So I'm going to stop now because I've kind of run out of time. But I wanted to just check in with you about the today's objectives. We wanted you to gather some greater understanding of the value of play and the benefits of play in your work, for you to have a little bit more clarity on your own play preferences, and maybe even some preferences you don't like that are playful in a way that rub you the wrong way, and consider how to increase more play in your work. So I'm going to truncate this because we've sort of run out of time, but I do want to open it up for a few questions if anybody has any questions. I'm going to check the Q&A here. No. I don't see any questions from anybody online. Okay, so the last thing I'll do, particularly for the people in the chat area online, but also for you in the room, is now that we've talked about play and now that you've thought about play a little bit more, what is one word that you have that you would describe how you're feeling now? And I'm going to look in the chat area, see what people are saying. Besides that, awesome. Inspired, happy, energized. What about in the room? Shout it out.
It's okay to talk out loud.
Somebody said whimsical. Get inspired.
Curious, someone said.
Curious, more curious. Good.
A few people who are introspective right now.
I just want to thank you all for contributing in one way or the other. I hope that your field guide helps you as you move forward. And I hope you're more playful in your conference and as you move forward in your work. Thank you so much for your participation.
Excellent. We want to thank Sharon for her time. We're going to move on through the rest of the day. Hopefully, we will have fewer technical difficulties.